Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is a follow-up video to the previous one that I have posted, having to do with the new lesson plan template for not for Waco ISD, but for Tennyson Middle School. What we are going to cover in this video is how to add TEKS for your particular content to your lesson plans in a slightly easier fashion, as well as how to look at ways that we can help our ELL students that is built into the Eduphoria software. So of course, we need to go to Forethought, which is our lesson planning um, portion of Eduphoria. Now on this particular day, which is the 22nd of August, you see that I have a different template. This is the one from last year, excuse me. And I have included the link to the Google document that I had set up for my plan for this particular lesson. Now, this is not going to help us because I showed in my last video how to change this template to the new Tennyson Middle School lesson plan format. So I'm going to click here on the 25th. I'm sorry, excuse me, the 24th. And you see that I have added in the new format. Well, for establishing learning goals, which are our TEKS slash ELPS TEKS, we can do something to help ourselves out. Now, this gray area here at the top of the lesson plan does serve a purpose. If you read the instructions, it says double-click the standards on the right to see them here. Click here to select checklist items for this lesson. So unfortunately, those are in kind of backwards order because first we must click into this box in order to bring up the menu on the right-hand side. So let's say that I am in the first 6 weeks, which of course we are, and in this section, we have pacing guides. We have our, for science in 6th grade, the 3 units that we are to cover in the first 6 weeks. The plus sign here on the side will allow us to break down the TEKS for each of those units. This is, of course, assuming that they have been set by the administration downtown for our access. So I'm going to click on Unit 1 since we are currently covering science, safety, and notebooking. As you see, only 2 options become available. Well, in another lesson plan, I have actually selected this second TEK, where we use preventative safety equipment, including chemical splash goggles, aprons, gloves, and be prepared to use emergency safety equipment, including the eye wash station, a fire blanket, and fire extinguisher. Because I have covered this TEK in another lesson, you will see that the little icon here has a check mark, okay, and it should be green. But because in my lessons I have not covered this particular TEK, you will see that has a blue circle. And of course, this one for us is to use appropriate tools to collect and record and analyze information. Well, let's say that this particular lesson we are doing just that. We are demonstrating how to use our notebooks and petri dishes and beakers in order to make observations. So, since that's the TEK I'm going to cover that day, I'm going to click on it once to highlight it. But if you click on it twice, you will see that this TEK is then added to the lesson plan itself. And it also has the designation of a 4A. Now, of course, this is going to be, since I am 6th grade, 6.4A. This designation uses the last digit of the TEK lettering or numbering, and of course, which part, A, B, C, D, and so on. Okay, so that is then complete. So let's say that is the only TEK we're going to cover that day. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I do my best for my ELL students. Well, if I can close this menu out and we scroll down to the bottom of our list, you will see English Language Proficiency Standards Imported Standards. Let's click on the plus sign right next to it. You'll see that the list expands into quite a large list. Okay. Each of these can be used as strategies in order to help our ELL students. So let's pick one for demonstration purposes. So we are going to use accessible language and learn new and essential language in the process. Okay, so this is an example of using simpler terms to explain more complex vocabulary in our lessons. Okay, so let's say I'm going to use that technique for the day. For my ELL students, I can click to highlight it, or I can double click to add it to the lesson plan itself. Now, before you start doing this, you need to speak to your PLC administrator to see how they would like you to proceed, excuse me, further with the TEKS and the ELPS, okay, to make it easier for everyone to be on the same page. But this is one way that you can add this. Now, this does not necessarily exclude you from having to add it here to the lesson plan template itself. So if you are in need or needing to add the TEK to your lesson plan for that day, okay, we can highlight, right click, copy standard text. Okay, this works just like a copy and paste feature in any word processor. So coming here to our established learning goals, where we're going to put our TEKs. All right, when you right click in Eduphoria in this section, nothing comes up. So the easiest way to paste something that you have copied is to use the hotkey Control plus the V button. Once you do, you should get a um, a copied piece of text. Now, unfortunately, the last thing I copied from a word processor was the template itself. So what I'm going to do is come back up here to the TEK and I'm going to re-highlight. I'm going to hit the Control C button to copy it. From here, I can then hit Control V to paste it here into the lesson plan. So this is word for word the TEK that I'm going to cover in that lesson. Now for the ELPS TEK that we added to the lesson plan, use accessible language and learn new and essential language in the process. Okay, I can come down here to the differentiation ideas for ELL, and I can basically reword that into the language that best describes how you are going to do that for your classroom. So if we are going to take accessible language, so language that the student has available to them currently, to learn new and essential language, I could say provide, excuse me, there we go. I don't know why it keeps moving, but I apologize. Provide vocabulary. Let me see if I can get that to stop moving up to the top. Provide vocabulary and definitions to these students. I will ask them to read the definition and discuss, make sure I am spelling everything correctly, which you see that I did not, and discuss how they can define the term in their own words. Okay. Now, of course, please go to the research whenever possible. I'm just doing this for example, so please do not quote me on this particular usage of this strategy, but I am trying to provide a good example to help out our team of teachers here at Tennyson Middle School to better serve our different subgroups of students. Okay, so once you have done this, okay, You will then be able to keep track of the TEKS you've covered from your particular content. You can use some of the ELPS TEKS to better differentiate your lessons for different students. And some of these techniques, as you go through them, you will notice that they will be beneficial for many different groups. For instance, excuse me again, um, our SPED population might benefit from an activity where they are given vocabulary terms and the official definition, but then have to try to translate that to a uh, form that they come up with themselves. Now, again, with an ELL student versus SPED student, there are different levels of teacher guidance. So, again, please make sure that you think through what better suits your particular group of students for each class period. All right. If you have any questions about this particular process, please first ask your PLC administrator whether or not this adding TEKS and ELPS to your lesson plans in these particular ways is sufficient. If not, you can copy and paste into your lesson plan template itself. But if you need additional help in how to see how to do this, and the video does not help you figure that process out, please feel free to contact me at mike.jones@wacoisd.org. Be happy to schedule a time that you and I can meet in order to show you this process. Hopefully, you have found this helpful this evening, and I hope you guys have a chance to really utilize the planning documentation that we are using now at Tennyson Middle School to guide your instruction and really work towards helping all of our different student populations. Hope you have a great night, and I will see you next time.